Hi, this is Chrissy Incognito, and welcome to another episode of my show. Now, you might be wondering why I'm incognito. This is my alter ego that can say things that I cannot otherwise say unless I was incognito. So, thank you for returning. In order to understand more about this episode, please view the previous episode. Happy listening. So, I was always very candid with whoever I was seeing that I did not want to have children. But kind of like Brian, Ethan wanted to have kids. And I'm like, I'm not having kids. And he's like, we'll have a girl. We'll have a girl. I said, first of all, I don't want a child. I said, second of all, how do you know it's gonna be a girl? He's like, all right, whatever, a boy. I think he just wanted to spoil the kid. And so he would always say like, "Oh, you'll change your mind. You'll change your mind. We'll have one." Right? And at some point, I just started to really decompensate somewhere in there. I think being in my first apartment alone on my own, still in school, dealing with my mental illness, um, there was no there was nobody to monitor my stability. And so I probably went off the meds, and then I probably went on the meds, and then I went off. And it was for no reason. It wasn't like most of the time when people stop taking medication, they're like, I feel great. I don't need this. That's not how I felt. I felt like maybe it wasn't working, or um or it should be working better. And so then I would come off and then try some other medicines. So there was a whole bunch of playing in there with the medication, and that's usually what happens. You have to find the right combination. So I was really decompensating, and the one of the ways I now again, I'm all alone. Now I have my friends obviously in the area, but there's nobody in the house to say something to me or to notice something. So I feel isolated. I feel stressed. Um, I feel like this relationship with Lance, um, which I just couldn't get out of my mind for a while, um, it blew up, right? And so I don't I don't know what I think what it was about Lance was there were 2 things. One was we got along well over the phone, and we had a lot of fun over the phone. And at 2, because he was a doctor, he could constantly reassure me that I either wasn't dying or I wasn't contaminated. I think that had a lot to do with it as well. Um, so because Lance sorta knew about I mean, I didn't wanna completely scare him away and let him know I was a lunatic, but he kinda knew things, and when I would reveal things, he would always, reassure me or tell me, "Oh, that's not the way it works, let me tell you." So, I think that was part of it that I couldn't let go of, and I think I felt like we just really connected, and I don't know. I really don't know why I could not let go, and this lasted for years, of just ruminating, about about plants, um, and I didn't feel like I could have done anything different, because it doesn't matter how functional I was, he was not functional. So, a big part had to do with him. Maybe that's what was bothering me. I had no control in the situation. So I was decompensating, and when I start to decompensate, and I've mentioned this in other episodes, I stop eating. Stop eating because I'm just so stressed that I probably don't even realize that I didn't eat. And I remember now I was like I said, I was about 100 pounds. And one day I turned sideways in the mirror and I like disappeared. And I remember thinking to myself, "Oh, I don't think I've been eating right." And it was only that visual confirmation, um, that made me take pause and be like, "When was the last time I ate? Am I not eating?" And it wasn't that I had memory issues, it's just that I was so engrossed in all this other crap that I couldn't tell you when I was eating. And then I was like, so I would eat maybe 1 meal a day and then go to the gym and try to work off my anxiety. And then I was kind of doing pavement running and stuff. So I was constantly active, and I don't think I was eating. And that was the first sign that I realized I turned sideways. And then as soon as I realized I had stopped eating, I went downstairs and I got something to eat. So I was like, "Oh man." So this was happening and everything, and I was just getting worse and worse and worse. Somewhere in there, Ethan wanted me to come live with him. Okay, because he had a house, he had a pool, he had a job. He was just finishing up his master's degree and he was going for his doctorate. So he wanted he was like kind of like a caretaker. There was also a side of him that was critical. He would criticize. So I knew if I went down, I knew I needed to be taken care of, but I didn't want to be taken care of, which is odd, you know. Um, and so he wanted to take care of me. And I knew, kind of like the Brian situation, if I went down this road, I would never accomplish whatever goals I was trying to um, reach. So I said, no. He's like, I'll take care of you. And I said, I know you would, but I couldn't articulate it at the time, but basically, we're gonna get stuck in this situation. I'm still young enough to have a child, that might have occurred, and then I would have been in the whole situation what I was fearful with Brian about, getting trapped in a relationship, having kids, not feeling fulfilled, um, my goals or whatever I'm working towards um, be disrupted. So I said, "No." I said, I can't come and live with you." And I was very tempted. I was very tempted, not only to be emotionally and physically taken care of, but he had money. And it wasn't about the money, it was about the stability, I should say. So that would have been easy, but I knew that I couldn't do that. I just couldn't do that. And it almost appeared like he was willing to play along with the charade too. So he kinda knew I still wanted Lance even though I would have nothing to do with him, and he just really wanted a family, kinda like Brian. But he would criticize me, and honestly, I wasn't stable enough back then to even give you an example. But I remember when he did this, I would lash back, whatever it was, and he goes, you go for the throat every time we have a fight." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, unfortunately I do, right? Like, you're at you're coming at me at a 2, and I raise it up to, like, an 8," you know? And I was like I probably said, like, "You're pissing me off," or what you said, wasn't nice or inappropriate, whatever it was. And so I got pissed off. So we would have that back and forth, but it wasn't enough to separate us. Um, and one day, this stuck with me. One day we were having one of our typical fights over the phone. He said something and he said it harshly. I don't even remember what it was, but he said it harshly. And at the end of the conversation, he said to me, "Do you realize you just went through every emotion?" He's like, "You started out angry. You started cry, you started there was something else in there, and then by the end of what you were saying, you were laughing, and I realized that's not normal. That's not normal in a 20-minute period to go through all of those ranges of emotion on the same topic, and I couldn't even tell you what we were talking about. He's like, "You just went through every emotion. You went through anger, sadness, happiness," and there was something else in there. I can't remember what it was. And then I realized I had a mood issue. I had a mood problem, and then I probably thought to myself, "I haven't been on my medication." So at some point, I might have went back on, and then became a little bit more, stable. That was kinda the Ethan story. As always, happy listening.